cat debate. It has all the hallmarks of a crime pot boiler: murder, money and intrigue. A court case that shed much unwanted light on the inner machinations of China's Communist Party leadership. Now let's just take a look at some of the characters, because after only 7 hours in court, officials are saying that Gu Kalai, the wife of the deposed political leader Bo Xilai, along with an accomplice, had all but confessed to poisoning a British businessman. So as we see there, we see these cast of characters begin with Gu Kalai. Then after that, we go to Bo Xilai, himself a highly ambitious Chinese politician who's since disappeared from view. And then there's the victim, Neil Haywood, the British business associate of Gu Kalai, who was found dead in his hotel room last November. And finally, Wang Lijun, the police chief investigating the case and whose subsequent attempted defection at a US consulate led to the British government calling on the Chinese government to reopen the investigation. It also alerted the world to the otherwise secretive dealings of the party's upper echelons. For many China watchers, in what smacks of a political deal, Gu Kalai, who did not contest the charges, has subsequently paved the way for a speedy trial. Let's take a listen to what a court official had to say.
Gu Kailai's defense lawyer believed the victim was partially responsible for triggering the case. Gu Kailai's self-controllability was weaker than normal people when she committed the crime. And the court should take into consideration the defendant's good performance in exposing the others involved.
Now, joining me as guest tonight in the studio with me is Jean-Paul Chang, an economist and a China specialist. Thank you, Mr. Chang. On my left is Emmanuel Linko, the chair of Contemporary China Studies at the Institut Catholique de Paris. From Stockholm, albeit normally based in Shanghai, is the China correspondent for the Swedish newspaper Svenska Dagbladet, Ulla Wang. And as well, from Burgundy here in France, we have Fabienne Clairaut, a research fellow at IRIS and also a specialist in China studies. Thanks to all of you for joining me. First of all, Emmanuel, let me start with you. This case perhaps would have never have seen the light of day if it wasn't for that attempted defection by the police chief. It certainly forced it into the public eye, didn't it?
Yes, well, you know, by the way, it is a parody of justice. We know since the end of last year that something wrong was happening in Bo's family. But what I would like to say, by seeing all of these images about this trial we attended this morning, it is a parody of justice because I'm afraid that Gu Kalai will only be the scapegoat of a system. And this system proves that it is still archaic and very conservative indeed.
Jean-Paul, would you agree with that?
Not completely, because there is a murder case and which should be investigated. And of course, you have all this political context around with the consequences for the husband of Gu Kalai. That this criminal case has been used for political purpose, that's one thing, but it remains a true criminal case which should be tried. I will not say it's completely a parody, because it's also the first time that you have such a trial with the presence of foreign observer, namely the British consular. And so I believe that, of course, we will not learn everything from this trial, but still it's a sign of evolution, because in the past you will never attend such kind of publicity about this kind of thing involving the leadership's families.
At this point, I just want to bring in Fabienne Clairaut, as I said, a research fellow at the IRIS Research Centre and a specialist in China studies. Fabienne, This is a case clearly as much about corruption and financial misappropriation. What does it say about the way that the party still operates in China?
It's a very important case for the Communist Party because one of the main problems in China, according to all the observers and according to the people of China, is corruption. So this case is very central now in China. If the Communist Party wants this trial to take place very quickly, it's because they want to show that nobody is above the law. No matter how important or powerful politicians or businessmen or women are. So it's a very important trial, maybe one of the most important since 30 years in China. Of course, there is a lack of transparency. Only 2 people from Britain were allowed to assist this morning. But the big difference now is that internet is taking a very important place in China, and all Chinese people can have access to information through the social media.
Ulla Wong, in Stockholm, Bo Xilai and Gu Kailai were very much China's power couple. It's a pretty dramatic fall for these two, isn't it?
Oh yeah, but this is the first time.
I'm sorry, Ulla, I think we seem to be having some technical problems there. Let me at this point just bring in Emmanuel. I mean, it is, you know, they've been dubbed the Kennedys of China, haven't they?
Yeah, they were a glamour couple indeed. They were also very popular, especially Bo Xilai, but we must keep in mind that Bo Xilai especially belonged to the system. He was a true communist member, and he was a son of Bo Yibo, who was a comrade of Chairman Mao Zedong. And during the Cultural Revolution, his own son accused Bo Yibo of being a counter-revolutionary activist. What does it mean? It means that Bo Xilai is able to use every kind of possibilities, every means for his own success. Is not so innocent, I would say, in this process.
He was a bit of a revisionist in a way, because he was sort of the ones he was a person rather who had set up these sort of Mao sort of song contests where people would, you know, get up and sing old songs about Mao.
We know him for being one of the most important leader of the so-called New Left Communist Party, and his theoreticians like Ganyang, for instance, and he was a former mayor of Chunxin, which is the biggest city in China and in the world, and he was quite famous for his rough methods by fighting against mafia, and he was quite popular because of his success in Chunxin. But certainly, as you said before, because of the preparation of the 18th Congress of the Communist Party, this trial has a strong political meaning. Bo Xilai was certainly the scapegoat, and he was also supported by the former President Jiang Zemin, and of course he was not an ally of Hu Jintao and his successor, Mr. Xi Jinping.
Jean-Paul Chang, as Emmanuel just pointed out, this has happened at a rather embarrassing time for the Chinese Communist Party. We're just months away from a Congress where we're going to have a once-in-a-decade leadership transition. It is rather embarrassing, isn't it, for them?
At least it's a rule established by Deng Xiaoping, the late Deng Xiaoping. Actually, you remember the crisis of Tiananmen in '89. So shortly after the crisis, Deng Xiaoping, understanding that the party was at danger as governing party, decided that he's going to hand over his power to so-called third generation of leader. leaders. So he said, myself, I have been the second generation's leader, the core of the second generation of leaders. Chairman Mao has been the core of the first generation of leaders. So now I'm passing the power to the third one, and also I'm naming the core of the fourth generation for leaders already.
But what this has done is sort of pull back the curtain on all those machinations. And
yes, it's not so. It's you're right to you use this term, but it's also a show on the scene. It's to show that it's no more a single dictator, but it's a team of 9 executives of the party. First, second, so you don't have a single dictator you can identify like in Arab countries, for instance. You have a generation, so-called generation collective leadership, which is passing the power to the next one every 10 years, which is actually avoid so far political crisis that China experienced till 89. But the thing is, one thing is very important, is actually it is all artificial, because of course Deng Xiaoping has never been the leader of the second generation. He's part of the first generation. There never been a second generation. But this artificial scheme worked so far.
At this point, I just want to bring in Ulla Wong again from Stockholm, and hopefully we've cleared up those technical problems. Ulla, I mean, certainly this is a political earthquake, the like of which China hasn't really seen since Tiananmen Square.
Oh, certainly. It's a huge downfall for this political prodigy, Bolshevik. But I think what's interesting also, we have been discussing, is that on this trial, corruption has never been the case. It's only a murder case. There's no any. She's not on trial because they have smuggled a huge amount of money abroad, which is probably the primary why she killed Mr. Haywood. And why is that? Because that would implicate Bolshevik in the trial. His name is not mentioned in the trial, actually, which means that in the upper echelons of the party, they haven't decided what's going to happen with him yet.
But isn't that the case, although they've done that purposely, to separate him and he representing the party from, obviously, this highly controversial court case?
Exactly. She is going to take the fall for this, and it's going to be over in a very short matter of time, and then it's going to be an official statement by Xinhua, and then they try to sweep it under the rug. Well, while they haven't been able to decide what's going to happen with Bolshevik, and if you compare to previous power struggles, where, for instance, when Hu Jintao, the current president, outmaneuvered Chen Liangyu, another Politburo member, and put him in prison for corruption. There was a very public disgrace of Mr. Chen Liangyu for a long time, and then he was sentenced together with his accomplices. And we haven't seen that yet. And that shows that the people that when Jiabao and probably Hu Jintao tried to attack him by bringing down Bolshevik, and that means the Politburo member Zhou Yongkang, who's the head of security, they are still very much in the seats of power and have been able to stop this attack on their faction of the party.
Fabien Clairaut, let me just bring you in at this point. I mean, Beaujolais has been very much the Communist Party's, princeling as such. What does this case reveal about the way in which the Communist Party operates at this moment in time?
It reveals that there is still many differences inside the Communist Party. It's not one big party, but many tendencies exist inside the party. Let's say liberal party, liberal tendency, the communists, the conservatists, and the new left. And Beaujolais was the leader of the new left. He was very, very popular, and he remains very popular. That's maybe why his wife is now trialed, sentenced. And remember, at the end of the 70s, the wife of Chairman Mao was also sentenced in order to protect the image of the party and the image of the communist leaders.
Emmanuel, you're nodding there. I mean, you're nodding in agreement in that sense, as far as you see it.
Yeah, I do share what she said previously, because there is a tradition in China of using women, and especially leaders, women, as scapegoats. And Jiang Ting, the former wife of Mao Zedong, was one of his cases, of course. I'm not sure if there will be a strong impact on the evolution of the Communist Party and its inner elections. I really think that things will change from maybe the riots in the country, or maybe because of the impact of the American elections. But I would like to say that this trial today is very, very marginal, I will say, concerning the preparation of the Congress in October. I don't think that the impact will be so big.
Was there a danger, Jean-Paul, that he could have implicated other party leaders if this case had not been taken to court?
Actually, I agree with the point of view that this trial is not really very important. What is important actually is whether the party treats the opposition between Bo Xilai and other leaders as a struggle of political lines. That will be a big risk for the party, for the ruling party. So somehow they are accustomed to find a compromise. So far, they limited this affair to a criminal case without involving Bo Xilai. And there's no talk about political opposition between Bo Xilai and the rest of the leadership. So I don't think we should overestimate the impact of Bo Xilai's case and Gu Kailai's case, the impact on the functioning of the party to renew the leadership. But one thing is clear, is Bo Xilai has been eliminated as a possible candidate for the executive committee, which is very important. That's an executive body of 9 people, renewed every 5 years, and this time is very important with 2 core leaders. We know it's Xi Jinping and Li Keqiang. But Bo Xilai was ambitious enough to pretend that he has to go to this committee.
I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there for the first part of the debate. Stay with us. We're just coming up now to a break, and we'll be joining you just in a few seconds' time.